Hello, I'm Emmanuel Jacquez, and coming up on Sun 20 TV, we're at Veterans Memorial Hall, where veterans and other officials are coming in and celebrating the Memorial Weekend. It's going to be a blast, and I hope you guys enjoy.
Yeah, so we wanted to invite the veterans in at the beginning of Memorial Day so that they could be part of the weekend and show them the renovation work that we've been doing here at Veterans Hall in Southampton Village. So we put in this new floor in the bar room here. We have a new floor in the kitchen, and we're putting a new slate roof on the building, which will be done in a few weeks. And so we're really trying to rejuvenate this building for the veterans, and so that we can also have events here on Memorial Day, Veterans Day, and other holidays. But we really are trying to get this to be a historic building in the village that has more attention and focus on it. And we wanted to have this event here so that people would become more aware of what goes on in this building and invite veterans and others to see exhibits going back to World War II through the current military garb. And they brought things from the History Museum. The History Museum on Meeting House Lane is part of this event tonight. And so we're really trying to have a community event, again, for veterans in honor of Memorial Day. Well, I think it's great to have a place that the veterans can identify with, but I also want just regular members in the community, non-veterans, to understand the importance and significance of this building. This building dates from around 1910, and again, it's a great spot for veterans events as well as other village events. It's right next door to our Southampton Cultural Center. And we do joint events sometimes in both buildings, but it's very important really to perpetuate what this was all about in the early 20th century into the 21st century.
With officials from Southampton helping to revitalize the Veteran Memorial Hall, veterans recounted some of the memories they shared throughout the history of this building.
I remember when this was an American Legion, and I can even remember bowling downstairs when I was a kid, just to be maintained the way it is, basically. And well maintained at that.
Southampton History Museum also came into Veterans Memorial Hall to show off some of the items they had in their collection. It was truly incredible to see what they had.
And tonight we were invited out by the village to the Veterans Hall so we could showcase some of the items that we have in our collection pertaining to veterans and military memorabilia. So a lot of it was donated by people. What's really cool, especially today, is we actually have a collection that was donated to us regarding a Leland J. Burnett who actually lived in the area. And then as we sort of went down more of the rabbit hole, we were able to discover his captain was from the area, and there was a whole bunch of Southampton, or Hampton's boys, as they were called, all in the same unit, fighting together in World War I.
Okay, thank you very much. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the real heroes here who are going to tell us a little bit about their experiences and what they'd like to share. And again, this is an asset that some people walked in here today and they said they had never seen the inside of this building. And so I was delighted. Look, you see, we got some hands going up. So I'm delighted that the village opened this building. This is owned by the village of Southampton. And I'm glad we could open it up so that you guys could all come here and see it and enjoy it and learn a little bit about the history of serving the United States here from the village. And you're going to hear some stories, but we put in a new floor here. We're putting on a new slate roof later this summer. So we're really trying to regenerate some of the village assets and preserve them for future generations, and so we can have functions like this and hopefully more. So anyway, I'm going to turn it over to you guys now.
My name is Jay Fitzpatrick. I live in the village here, and Gina invited me, and I thank her. I have to put my glasses on. But this is only 2 minutes, so don't think it's going to take too long. Memorial Day is a time for us to remember and honor the military men and women who died while serving in the forces of the United States. We'll lower our flag maybe today or tomorrow, and we have gatherings like this, and those of us who remember and those who don't care. But the reality is the true meaning of Memorial Day has been appropriated by a weekend and lost to some. But many of us, in our own way, continue to honor and celebrate absent friends. Old men start wars, young men fight them. Johnson and McNamara started my war. Nixon and Kissinger were the continuum. My best friend Tommy Dean and I went to Vietnam together at 19 years old as a Marine since 1966. We both came home in 1967. I was 20, The Tommy stayed 19, forever. In high school, Tommy was an all-star baseball player destined for the big league. He was a leader with an inviting smile, infectious laugh, and a great friend. I miss him always. And I always wondered what would happen if he lived. Would America be a better place? I gave Tommy a chance to live. I gave him a new life because I made him the protagonist in several novels I wrote. I wanted to know if he would accomplish amazing things, and not only America, but the world. He made a better place, at least in the novels. I like to think I was brave, but I was no hero, although I walked among them. Very few boys in my company survived. Most were wounded or killed. Myself and a few other 20-year-old salts who made it through without getting a scratch were given the nom de guerre by a French Vietnamese scout. They called us on cirque, heartless men. The turbulence of the rotor wash would not blow the ponchos away, revealing the faces, so many faces. The noise, the wind, the smell, and the faces are all gone now. The helicopters have lifted off, and quiet returned to the hill. The men without hearts gathered all the dead and the wounded skier, saddled up, prepared to move to the next valley, the next hill, the next fight. That was my war. And thank you for helping me remember and honor the bravest of the brave. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Tom Gouldy. I served in the U.S. Army from 1970 to 72. I went through training in Fort Polk, Louisiana, basic training. Then I went to Fort Gordon for military police training. There one day they took us to a theater, and a bunch of us, I don't know how many, and we had an opportunity to see military dogs, and I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. I'd like to do that. And when I found out, I was one of the only few that wanted to do that. Most of the guys wanted no part of it, and consequently, they got volunteered. We went on to Okinawa, and we had a week in orientation of dog orientation in Fort Gordon, and 6 weeks in Okinawa. And we got 2 guys that got tore up pretty bad, and I never forget my friend Dan says, these dogs aren't that big a deal. And I think it was the same day. He was working with a sleeve, and he walked backwards and tripped. And that's when the dog saw an opportunity, bit him in the leg, bit him in the arm. And remember, you could see the canine tooth implant right behind his ear, and his head. Man, once they get a hold of you, you won't want to do anything but get away. So he went on to Vietnam, but as a regular MP. And I went on. I finished it. And I got my partner, whom I didn't like at first, and as I said before, he didn't like me, but we got used to each other. Our job was basically to go into, we would go to helicopter bases, ammo dumps, and so forth, and as a sentry dog handler, so the dog is there to see what comes in or what tries to come in. They will alert you. One thing about the German Shepherd, they're the most alert dog you'll ever see. I've just got a new German Shepherd a few months ago, and I'm just watching him and comparing him with the other dog my son has, and he is just checking out everything, looking at everything, and that's why they were so good in Vietnam. There were about 10,000 dogs in Vietnam, and they did, mine was sentry dogs. They also did work as scout dogs. They would be out in the front if a platoon was out on a patrol. The dog handler and the dog were out in front in a very dangerous job. They were good at alerting them. The North Vietnamese knew they were good because they would award anybody who could cut off the left ear of the dog because it had a tattoo in it. All the dogs had a tattoo in their ear. It's 4 digits. It's 3 numbers and 1 letter. Fritz's, my dog, was 0M95. Still remember that. So we were fortunate. There were people killed in our unit, but not the time I was there. And we all got to go home. one thing, and he'll understand this. We always, I get people say, thank you for your service and everything. And I'm like, we look at the people who made real sacrifices, who didn't make it home, who got wounded, got their arms blown off and legs blown off. And, I kind of think my sacrifice was nothing. It's those people. There's always those people who made greater sacrifices that we think about.
My name is Gene Dombrowski. I was drafted into the Army in 1965, right out of high school. I got my training in Fort Dix. A couple of weeks off, I was shipped to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. After about 3 or 4 months in North Carolina, a little bit of training. Don't quite remember what they taught me. All of a sudden I got orders. Got to go to South Carolina, get on a boat, and go to Vietnam. The SS Robin Trent, 37 days at sea. Me and 9 other guys. 7 decks below the ship with all the equipment for a battalion, I guess. After about 2 months in the Saigon, Ben Hoa, Long Binh area, I was shipped up to the first cav up in Pleiku, An Khê area, and served my remaining time there. I had 3 months to go. And the sergeant came to me and said, Gene, you're an E4 now, specialist E4. He said, we could make you an E5. Just sign up for 6 more months. I said to him, what the hell you been smoking? I got 3 more months and I'm going home back to Southampton. And I did. And here I stand. No big medals on my chest. Some fond memories over there. But other memories, they've kind of gone away. Just like the clouds I watched while I was on the ship. I was fortunate enough when I got here, after about 6 or 7 months, the work was very little around Southampton area. And I picked up a job with the village, being a garbage man. Loved it. Met a lot of people. Great people like your mayor you have now. A couple of years' time went by. I got close with the village board at that time, and they said they don't have a parks department. They don't have anyone to take care of the trees or the flowers. And I showed a little more interest in the next guy, and soon enough I was appointed. And in 1973 we started the first parks department, and it's grown now all these years. I retired way back 20 years already, 19 years. But in that time, when this building became available, that's more important than anything. When this building, George Submergent, the developer in Southampton, was going to turn it into like a rest home or condo or something. And there was a lot of panic in the community. Somehow, that board at that time, I think Roy Wines was the mayor, they heard about this. They ran to George and said, George, if you're going to buy that, let us have a crack at it first, because the village could use it. Bill Frankenbach became our first commander in here to run the Combined Veterans Organization for the parades until his death. And with his committee, which was 40 strong, and his family members, slow but sure, with the help of each department, the Parks Department, the Highway Department, the Buildings Department, all members of the village family, came into this building, and it was a disaster, complete disaster. Windows were broken, everything. There was dog feces everywhere because the people before it were using it as a dog shelter. And inch by inch, with this parking lot behind me, that was bowling alley down the cellar. That was gutted. The one next door was gutted, and this bar was moved over to the back, and on and on. New fixtures, new floors, new furniture, and we had fundraisings for new furniture. And as I speak, I understand there's going to be some more fundraising to buy more furniture here. But in any event, this is what has come from all those years of my participation since 1965. And when I walk through that door, I really do feel home. I feel welcome. And with that, thank you and good evening.
Before it says I have to talk. Something I'm used to anyway. I'm a talker. My name is John Malillo. I'm a proud heritage family in Southampton Watermill, going back to 1890. I was drafted in I shadow Tom. I was drafted in 1970. I went to Fort Polk, Louisiana for basic training, and then I went to flight school, which didn't work out, and I went to Fort Gordon, as he did, for MP school. And then after that, they signed me to Vietnamese language school. After 8 weeks, I knew how to say goodbye or say hello, that's about it. And then they sent me to Vietnam. And when I got over there, I was in Long Binh, Vietnam, and I was E-nothing, I just wanted to do my job and get out, you know, do my time and go home. But, you know, I'm a college graduate at the time. I went to Cornell. I'm a college graduate. Everybody I know went and saw daddy, got braces on their teeth, and got out of the draft for whatever reason. We don't do that in my family. We all serve. My grandfather served, my father served, my father-in-law served. So we do what's asked of us. But I'm sitting there at 22, 3 years old, and I'm looking at kids at 17, 18 years old, and I've worn shoes before. You know, these poor kids. And there was a lack of supervision. We lost one guy. One guy got blinded from lack of supervision. It was military action, but it was lack of supervision. Go into my first sergeant. I go, look, blah blah blah. If we did this, if we did that, if we did, he says, look, you know, there was a lot of apathy going on at the time. He said, look, we did it in Korea. You want to do it? I'll make you sergeant. So I became frontline supervision. I worked 12-hour shifts, 6 weeks days, 6 weeks nights. I had 26 guys. 12 guys worked gates, 12 guys worked patrol, and we had 2 dog units under our command. And we had responsibility at the time with the Vietnamization of the war, so they pulled all the GIs into post, which, you know, wasn't a lot of fun. I probably saw 9 suicides from Dear John letters. People don't realize all the misery that can come from home, as well as, you know, whatever. At any rate, I was involved. We had to handle anything from civil to combat involving 40,000 GIs and 60,000 Vietnamese. So every day was just an adventure. But that's not what the story. What I want to talk about today is the American soldier, because that's what this is about. So let me just tell you something. I remember hunting, you know, back in the days when pheasants were like robins. I'd be hunting at my uncle's farm in Sagaponack with my cousins. And one day we're duck hunting and we're out at the pond, and a Springer Spaniel comes out of nowhere, and I don't know where he came from, but he's standing by us, and he's wincing and he's pointing. And, you know, it hasn't been trained yet, but it's in his blood to do these things. And the thing that I want to say is, because of the job I had in Vietnam, I saw it globally. I saw the good, bad, and the ugly. I saw globally everything, you know, from my duties. It just wasn't pigeonholed to one thing. I saw everything. And what I want to tell you is, guys would come over there, and they would be probably Castro milk toasts, where people stole the milk money probably when they went to school, beat them up. But let me tell you something about the American soldier. You do not want to fight a war with America. They are warriors. I don't care where they come from. Like that Springer Spaniel, it's in their DNA. They want action. These guys would come over and they go, where is it? Where's the front line? Let's go. And you know, that's what I want to tell you about today. I'm proud to be an American, and I don't care how soft you think we are or how weak we are, we're not. We're not. You put us in the face of adversity, particularly, any of these guys will tell you, when you get over and see how the other half lives, you want to get home. You want to get home to mom and apple pie. Trust me, you'll do anything to do it. And they're ferocious. The American soldier it's built into the War of 1812, Civil War thing. All we've ever done is fight wars. So all we've ever done in the sake of freedom. And you know what? And I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to be from this area. I'm proud of the people that serve. And I know that anybody they put us with would always have your back. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for inviting us here. Thank you for coming to take a look at our beautiful Veterans Hall. We're so proud of it, and we thank the village for everything they do for the veterans. But my experience in the military goes on for about 26 years. 6 years of active duty and another 20 years with the Air National Guard. But I'll tell you a little bit about how I got into the military. Graduated from pharmacy school in '63. Got my license. I was working for a pharmacy thrift drug company, which was bought out by Rite Aid back in the '60s. And I was working for a few years, and come along in 1966, Vietnam was starting to heat up. And my local town, Clairton, Pennsylvania, where my mom moved to when she married my father. My mom was a Norsec, you know the Norsec family here in town. But my mom was the oldest child of the Norsec family, met my father at a family wedding, and they got married and moved to Pennsylvania. And that's where I was born and grew up, in Clairton, Pennsylvania, which was called the steel mill capital of the world, because they had nothing but steel mills all up and down the Monongahela River. And while I was there, I was working, and the draft board sent me a notice to get drafted. I had to go and take my physical, but I really didn't want to go into the Army. I wanted to fly. And at that time, it was around the Thanksgiving, Christmas time of '65. And my wife and I had been married about 6 months. She was a teacher. And the Christmas season was there. So at the school, the kids were putting on little Christmas plays. And her class was up there doing their thing, and I'm sitting out in the audience, and I have this man sitting next to me who also had a daughter up in that class. And we got to talking, and I found out that he was an Air Force recruiter. So Sam Tassone, his name was. And I said, Sam, you know, the draft board's after me. I really don't want to go and trudge through the jungles of Vietnam. I'd rather be an Air Force pilot. He said, Bob, maybe I can help you. He says, come down to my office in Pittsburgh, this was Friday night, on Monday, and take the exams that you have to take to see whether you're qualified or not. So I spent the whole day down there taking exams. The next day he calls me up and says, you passed everything. You're qualified. But you got to go to Washington, D.C., down to the Air Force Base there to take your physical to see whether you're qualified physically. So he gets me an airline ticket, Allegheny Airlines, out of Pittsburgh, flew to Washington, got a taxi over to the air base, spent the whole day there taking my physical, and he told me, before you leave, ask them whether you passed everything. They told me, yes, I did. So I came back home to Pittsburgh the next day, and he got notice from them that I had passed everything. So he tried to get me a slot with the Air Force. But he couldn't because of the backlog of people trying to get into officer school and pilot training. He got me a slot, but it was going to be 6 months from that time frame. And he let the draft board know that the Air Force was accepting me, but I had to wait 6 months. I had a 6-month deferment. So the draft board said, sure, we'll give you a 6-month deferment, but the day that's up, the next day you're going to get drafted. So it ended up that me and 4 or 5 other guys from Pittsburgh drove down to Lackland Air Force Base, where we had a report for officer school. We reported in the next day. They sent telegrams back then, not phone calls or email or anything like that. They sent a telegram to my draft board and said Bob reported the Air Force duty. So I went through pilot training. I went through officer school. Then I got sent to pilot training for a year. And from there, I got stationed up at Stewart Air Force Base up here in Newburgh, New York.
Thank you so much for joining us in this incredible journey at Veterans Memorial Hall. We truly hope you enjoyed our special today.